Welcome to Field Sketching. This is a webinar here hosted by the Long Point Basin Land Trust. My name is Joelle Chili Kale. I'm going to be helping out this evening, but our main instructor is going to be Megan over here. We're very, very excited to have you. Just a couple basic housekeeping things. We're going to ask you to please keep your video off. So we're going to turn off any videos that we see that are on. The reason for that is it just helps everything run a little bit more smoothly, just makes it a lot easier for everybody to enjoy. We have your microphone muted as well. Again, just makes everything run a little bit more smoothly. So please use the chat box if you want to ask any questions that you have, and we're going to try to answer them all. You can pop them up as we're going, or if you have any at the end of the presentation, that's fine. If you're on mobile, you can find the chat box by hitting the three dots, and then chat is one of the options there. If you are on, if you're on a computer, you can see the chat button right here on your screen as well. If you can't hear me talking right now, you can click that join audio button in the bottom left-hand corner. That's if you're on a desktop. Again, the join audio button is just on that bottom there as well if you are on mobile. And we're going to be recording this webinar, so if you have any connection issues, you just have so much fun sketching that you want to do it again, anything like that, we are recording this and we will email out a link to the YouTube recording of this afterwards, so you can do that. And then a brief introduction to why we're all here tonight. We are the Long Point Basin Land Trust. So we would love for you to sign up for our newsletter. You can go to longpointlandtrust.ca. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at LPBLT. Just don't try saying that 5 times fast because it's a little tongue twistery, but that's where you can find out a whole bunch of information about all of the really cool and amazing things that we're doing. A really brief introduction to where we are and what we do. So we're a land trust, we protect and conserve land, and our area is in the Carolinian Canada zone. So you can see that here, that's that green area. The Long Point Basin is that area outlined in yellow with that arrow pointing to it there. So it of course includes Long Point, but also Norfolk County, Elgin County, Haldimand County, other parts of kind of Oxford and Brant, that whole area there. It is some of the most biodiverse area in all of Canada. So it's really important that we protect and conserve it. And one of the main ways that we do that is by nature reserves. And so we have 10 nature reserves. Most of them are located across Norfolk County, and some of them have wonderful trails that we encourage people to go to, that you can visit along kind of all across there. So if you want any more information about our nature reserves or what we do to help conserve land in this region, again, you can just go to our website, longpointlandtrust.ca. And then, of course, we'd be remiss if we did not mention all of our incredible sponsors. These sponsors really help to make events like these possible. In addition, they also, these events are also possible by people like you and the donations that you make as well. So we're really, really grateful for that too. Speaking of events, we have 2 other events coming in very soon. So at the end of the month, one of our most popular in-person events this year, we're transitioning it to online. And so we're going to be doing a monarch tagging webinar with Catherine Boothby, who's this incredible naturalist in Norfolk County, and she usually hosts our monarch tagging events anyway. And so she's going to show you all about that. You're going to learn all about the differences between monarchs and some other lookalikes, cool plants, those types of things. And then we're also going to have a mushroom identification webinar, and I'm actually going to host that one because that's kind of my area of expertise. And so if you're curious about mushrooms and you really want to know anything about wild mushrooms, I would love to talk about that for hours and hours because that's what I get really into. But before we do that, of course, we have to go back to field sketching. So I would love to introduce to you Megan Hiebert. She loves doing nature art with her work, ranging from pyrography, which is wood burning, to painting and sketching. She is an avid naturalist, birder, and loves everything to do with the outdoors, and her artwork reflects this, as you will very clearly see pretty soon. She is currently on maternity leave from Birds Canada in Port Rowan. Her daughter Lark is 3 months old and has already gone bird banding, duck banding, fishing, boating, hiking, which gives you a pretty good impression of the things that her mom likes to do. So Megan does this type of art mostly as a hobby, but sells the occasional piece and has some published work. You can check out her Instagram account, which is Megan_Hiebert_arts. If you're interested in seeing some of her work, we'll put that handle in the chat box for you guys later on. And so today she's going to be introducing you to some of the fundamentals of sketching and some tips and tricks for drawing wildlife. And there's going to be a bit of a bias towards birds, but I think that's because that's her specialty. So Megan, I'm going to stop my screen and let you take it away. We're so excited to have you. Thanks for coming.
All right. So hi everybody, my name's Megan Hiebert, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to draw focusing on wildlife as my subjects. So the materials you'll need are a pencil, eraser, and the handout I made for this, as well as just some scrap pieces of paper. So if you don't have any of these, just go run off and grab it while I'm talking away, and then you'll have the stuff by the beginning of the first activity. So I'm going to give you a little lesson on different drawing techniques you can use, lead you in some drawing exercises, and then we'll do a step-by-step so you can see my thought process as we're drawing a figure. In this case, we're going to do an orchard oriole. So a little bit about me. I started doing fine art in about grade 8 when we were told to choose our favorite artists and try to recreate one of their pieces of work and then create something that could have been done by them. So I, of course, chose Robert Bateman, whose paintings are almost indecipherable from a photo. And I discovered through that project that I really like doing fine art and I had a bit of a knack for it. So I mostly do art for fun, as Joel was saying, but I also do occasional commissions. The first image is a chimney swift for the Kasiwik, which is the Committee on the Status of Endangered Wildlife in Canada report. The second is a frontispiece I drew up for the Wilson Journal of Ornithology. And the third is a wood burning of 2 baby ducks that I did for my daughter's nursery. So I just kind of do a lot of random stuff. But why should you sketch? There's a lot more reasons to draw than just to create a pretty picture. When sketching, the goal isn't always even to create a pretty picture, but rather to create an image that accurately portrays what you saw, what features you thought were important about what you saw, and your thought process, which is why artwork created by 2 different people shouldn't look the same, because we all have a different perspective. And drawing also helps to heighten your level of observation, remember details, and to portray those details to another person. So this is particularly important with field sketching. For example, if you see a bird and you want to ID it later, you want to do a good job of drawing it out, so it's going to help you remember it and then look back into your field guide. Drawing also helps you to appreciate subjects from a different perspective and pick up on details that you otherwise wouldn't have. So to start, we're just going to warm up. So in your little handouts, there is a blank spot for you to do your warm up. You can also just use a scrap piece of paper, but I want you to take your pencil and just without lifting your pencil off the paper, you don't really need to see me, but you're just going to take your pencil and you're just going to draw squiggles. Just going to keep your hand nice and loose and just warm up your hand. Just going to do that for, give you like 30 seconds or so. So I want you to relax, feel comfortable with the pencil in your hand, and get your head into a more creative mindset. So a lot of the time, our biggest problem when we're drawing is that we draw what we think we see rather than what we actually see, which leads to cartoon-sized heads, feet. You get the picture. So I want you to get out of your head and just draw some squiggles, just loosen up. All right. All right, so should have some squiggles drawn now. So next, we're going to do some different types of lines. So the first type of line I want you to try is continuous. So you're going to draw the circle in the middle of the screen without taking your pencil off the paper. So put your pencil down and you're just going to draw a circle and not lift your pencil, and try to get it as accurate as you possibly can. Okay. So there's my one that I drew a little bit earlier. So you can see it's not entirely accurate. You can tell it's a circle, but you know. So next I want you to try drawing a circle, but you're going to use a series of short sketchy lines. So I'm going to show you my screen again. Okay. So you're just going to do little sketchy lines. And try to get it as accurate as you can. Oops, sorry. So you see how much more circular my sketchy circle is than the one drawn with the continuous line? So throughout this webinar, I'd like you to try to use sketchy lines throughout the whole thing, and that should hopefully help you to be a bit more accurate in your drawing. So first big activity we're going to do is called blind contour drawing. So this helps you get into the mindset of only drawing what you see rather than what you think you see. So take out a scrap piece of paper, and without looking at your paper, I want you to try to draw the scene that I have up. I'm gonna give you like 5 minutes to do this, maybe a little less. And I just want to see, just try not looking at the paper. All right? So it's obviously not going to look that great, but that's kind of the point. You just want to get out of your head and draw what you see rather than what you're thinking. So you're going to focus on all the little shapes.
So Barb is asking what exactly you're asking us to draw for this blind contour drawing. Everything?
Whatever you would like. You're just trying to draw what you see and not try to think about it as a whole picture, but as a bunch of shapes. And a lot of the time when you're drawing, you look more at your own page than you do at the picture, and that doesn't help you to draw accurately because you're just drawing what you think you're seeing. So we're just trying to get out of that and force you to just completely look at the picture and not at all at your page. So I'll show you kind of, oh, that's not good. I'll show you what I've got so far. Can you see that? It's like, it's not going to be that good. It's just an exercise.
Yeah, it's a bit, it's kind of hard to see. It might be easier if you hold it up and show us directly to the screen. It's kind of hard to see.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you guys 1 more minute. Oops. Yeah, sometimes you can actually get pretty cool looking things when you're doing blind contour. It's difficult. But like sometimes you can get some really nice impressionistic pieces too. All right, and that's good enough. So I kind of already showed you, this is what mine looked like. So it's not gonna look great, but it's just an exercise. All right. So a key element to drawing an image so it resembles whatever you want it to resemble is proportion. Here, I just Googled badly proportioned bird drawings, and this came up. So this is apparently a sparrow, but because of the way the head is proportioned to the body, the beak to the head, and the legs to the body, you probably wouldn't guess sparrow. So I don't know what type of sparrow this was supposed to be, but sparrows as a group have a general shape to them in which the head normally isn't the same size as its torso, and the legs are not built like that of a shorebirds. If you're not familiar with shorebirds, they have super long legs for wading around in the water. The length of their legs dictates their general behavior, their habitat, their diet, as does the length of their beak, their neck to body ratio, etc. So getting the different body parts proportioned correctly is super important when drawing wildlife accurately, as it can indicate a completely different lifestyle for that, in this case, sparrow. So one way to help proportion things correctly is to use a grid. If you have a photo right in front of you, you can draw out a grid on the photo and a matching one on your paper and match box to box, as I did with this great horned owl. So then you're just focusing on one box at a time and trying to get the shape. If you're drawing outside, you'll want to pick a point to be your halfway line horizontally and perpendicularly. Then split it into quarters, and you can go into as much detail as you want. So this is just kind of a mental picture to help you stay on track. Some people use it, some people don't. I like it because it just kind of helps me break things up and make it not seem quite so overwhelming, because you're just looking at, okay, this little square, we're just going to draw that right now. Then we'll just draw this little square, and then you kind of piece it all together. So we're going to do a little grid proportion exercise. So when you're using a grid, you want to think of each square as an image by itself, and I want you to focus on the shapes in the square rather than the whole leaf or the whole caterpillar in the square. So this helps you to draw what you actually see rather than what you think you see. Some people even number the squares so that keeps them on track and keeps them thinking of the images as a series of shapes. So you have like 5 minutes, and we're going to try drawing this monarch caterpillar. So I just want you to get the rough outline of what you think is important in this image in the grid. You don't need to finish. That's why I made the handouts, because that way you can start it and you can come back to it later. It doesn't matter. It's just to practice. So if you'd like to, you can number the squares to help you stay on track. I'm just going to kind of talk while you're working a little bit. Fill the silence. But for example, square 3 over and 2 down, there's a line that starts a little over halfway up, and it comes off originally at about 30-degree angle, and then goes up towards the top, dips down a tiny bit, and then meets the top right hand side a quarter of the way from the corner. So that's how I want you to think of it, about it as the little shapes in the squares, and you're just putting together the puzzle. And this is about how much detail I want you to go into. So maybe not even that. Like you're probably not going to have time to draw all the stripes on the monarch caterpillar. Are there any questions? I'm kind of going to draw along with you a little bit just so that I know whereabouts you'll be. Another trick that you can use to help when you're drawing just shape is to think of the negative space. So rather than drawing the green leaf, you're going to draw this almost triangle in the corner. So you're going to look at the background rather than the foreground. That especially comes into handy if you're painting, because, well, it's totally different color on your brush. So so maybe you'll paint out the light green, and then you need a darker color to go over top. So then you'll do that second. I don't know, it helps me to make things more accurate. Actually, I've got this painting back here. And you can see in some of the spaces, like especially behind this tree, I use the negative space to paint that in rather than painting the tree because it's totally a pain in the butt to paint the whole background and paint over top of it. Just paint it all in one go, especially with oils because it takes so long to dry. Yeah, that's totally crooked, whatever. All right, so you have a minute and a half left. Don't worry about rushing though. If we were doing a full drawing and not just the outline, you'd want to take note of some of the details, like the little veins in the milkweed leaf, the like burnt looking edges to the base of like the end of that leaf, which are probably bite marks, all that sort of thing. But for now, we're just breaking it down into simple shapes. All right, so that's 5 minutes. So probably haven't gotten that far, but it's just to give you the idea, and you can go back and work on it later if you'd like. So another way of getting proportions is measuring and comparing measurements to other parts in the picture. So here we have a ruby-throated hummingbird. This is one of my mom's pictures, and I just thought the hummingbird was gorgeous. So anyways, you want to pick out an important feature of whatever subject you've chosen, and this will be your reference point. So on an animal, I generally choose the head because that's a pretty important part of the animal. And next, I want you to take your pencil. Okay, can you see me? So I want you to take your pencil and hold it up to the image. And using your thumb, I want you to mark out how far it is. So I'm just using that painting in my background. So there's that tree there. I'm gonna hold up my pencil and measure it out with my thumb. And then I will compare that. And it's the same length as, so the height of the tree is the same as the distance between the two trees, okay? If you're outside, you'll do the same thing. Generally, I use arm's length because that's always consistent. You're not, if you do it a bit bent, then how do you know exactly how bent you had it each time? It's just really easy to have straight arm and you're using that to measure.
So some people apparently are having trouble seeing the video recording of you. Yeah. I can see you, so I'm not completely sure if that's the case, but it seems like some people are having that trouble. So if you wouldn't mind just verbally kind of describing it a little bit more, as opposed to, I don't know, that's already what you're doing, but
I'll stop screen sharing for a little bit so you can just see my face.
Oh, sure, that works. Okay. Yeah, let us know in the chat if you can see her face now.
My face?
Yeah. Yeah, you should be on speaker view, and then as long as you don't have the video pinned, you should be able to switch between the settings when people are talking. So yeah.
All right. Well, if everybody's good, I will explain that again. So you want to hold your pencil out at arm's length. Okay, so straight elbow. That way it's always consistent. If you bend your elbow a little bit, you're not going to always bend it that exact same amount. So it could be different every single time you do a measurement. So I'm going to use the painting in the background. I'm going to hold my pencil up, and I'm going to use my thumb to mark out how tall that tree is. Okay? And then I'm going to turn my pencil, holding my thumb there as the marker, and I'm going to compare the height of the tree to the distance between the two trees, which you'll notice is the same. Okay, so I took one part in the painting that I thought was significant, and I'm comparing that to other parts. And that's how I will proportion everything out in my painting. So you got one, and if everything is proportionate to that one thing, the whole picture should look proportionate. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so we're going to practice on this hummingbird. And if you print it off the handout, you'll have a hummingbird picture, so you don't have to use your screen. You can use the picture if you'd like to measure it out. And I will show you on the screen as well. Okay. So this is my head measurement. So while we're taking these measurements, on your paper, just draw a little tick mark, draw a circle. And you'll use that as your reference point. So once you've got your circle, after that, we're going to use tick marks and just mark off the other measurements. We're not actually going to draw the full hummingbird. It's just a practice. Okay, so we've got our head measurement. So now we're going to use that head, and we're going to compare that to the body. So when I measured, I found the body was 1.5 heads long. And we'll find in the next slide that it's one head out if you're concerned about doing the whole thing properly right now. It's just a practice, but it's one head out to where I did that line, and 1.5 heads down. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen again, and I'm going to show you on my sketchbook. Okay. So circle, it's my line. All right, so there's my circle. I've got a line through it. So I'm going to take that head measurement. So that's about here. So that's the head measurement, and I'm going to go out one head and put a tick mark. Okay. And then it's 1.5 heads. So there's 1.5 heads. So it's just going to look like a bunch of tick marks because we're just practicing measuring right now. Okay. So once you have that body measurement, we're going to measure how wide the body is, not how long it is. So again, get your thumb measure. So head length, and you're going to compare that. I started at the center of the head just so it's consistent, and I found from the center of the head, it was 2 head widths long. Okay. So again, I'll show you. So my head is this long, and we're going to go out 2. So that's 1, 2, and I'm going to make a tick mark there. And I'm just going to, so those are my tick marks. I'm just going to draw a line just so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so head width in comparison to the width of the body and the height of the body. Oops. Okay, so next we're going to measure the length from the feet to the tail. There we go. So that measurement, and again, it's right in the center of the body. So you can just use that line again that we already have for when we were measuring the height of the body as your reference point. And you're going to measure out how many heads fits in the distance from the back of the tail to the feet. So when I did it, I found that it was 2.5. So this is what I have. And I'm going to go out. One, two, and a half. So that's my measurement from the feet to the back of the tail. Okay? Am I going too fast or is this okay? Okay.
Yeah, you can let us know in the chat what you think, if this is the right pace.
Yeah, I don't want to go too fast and lose everybody, but I also don't want to dwell on points for too long either.
Yeah, people are saying it's a very good pace, and it's good.
Perfect. Okay. All right, and I think I had one more measurement planned. Sorry, my computer's being kind of slow. Country internet. Oh, sorry. Okay, and the last measurement I did was the wing length. So again, that measurement that we used for the height, I'm going to go from there. And I found that the wing was 3 head widths long. And it starts just above the center of the head. Okay? So I'm going to stop sharing again so you can see my screen. So there's my head body line. It was just above that. So it'll be about there where I just drew that little squiggly line. And it's going to be 3 head widths long, okay? I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you just drawing a tick mark. We're just practicing measuring. All right. Nice. So you've got the measurements for a hummingbird. And we're just going to leave that behind us because hummingbird's a little tricky. Come on, screen. Anyways, the next exercise, you're going to try this on your own soon as, there we go. Okay, so you're going to try this on your own with, I picked out a very simple picture. So it's just a bunch of mushrooms. Maybe Joelle actually knows what kind these are. I don't know much about mushrooms. I have to tune into that one. But so you're just going to draw these mushrooms. I want you to pick a mushroom. And then you're going to use that and compare that to the rest of your picture. So you can compare it to the crotch of the tree here, the other mushrooms, the length of the moss. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. I'm just setting a timer. Okay, so you have 3 minutes. I want you to take a measurement and I want you to compare that to other things in your picture and just draw them tick marks. And you might have to draw some circles so you actually know where you are, or you're probably going to get lost on the page. I'll do it with you at the same time, but don't copy me. I want you to do this from your own perspective. I want you to pick out what you're using to measure and just figure out how you do it on your own. Okay, so I'm going to choose this mushroom right here. You do not have to pick this mushroom as well. And I'm going to hold my pencil up to the screen at arm's length. Or I guess I can hold it straight to the screen. I don't really need to hold it out. Okay. And the mushroom right above it is just a little bit more than that mushroom. Okay. So let's draw that mushroom. Okay. Bit off center. So that would be the length of the mushroom. We're just going to go a little bit farther. And I'm just going to make that into a circle so that I know where I am. And then I can go back and I can change this at any point. If I decide I don't think the shape of the circle that I drew was matching that mushroom, then I can just go back and erase it. That's the beauty of pencils. Some people use pens for everything when they're doing that, like baseline outline, and I just think they're very brave. I like to use my eraser. Okay. And how long is that mushroom stem compared to the cap? Okay, so that's the cap length. Stem is about half a cap length. Okay. And the width of the stem is again half cap length. So half of that's going to be about here. Here. Okay, that's already 3 minutes and I've gotten nowhere, so I'm going to give us a little bit more time. I always forget how slow it takes. Okay, let's measure that cap to the other mushroom beside. So that's the same width. Okay, and it comes down so that it is right in line with the other cap. How long is it? So many. Okay. About 1.5. A little bit less. Again, it follows that. Okay. All right, and that was about 5 minutes, so I'm just gonna call it there. So we got lots of stuff to get through. Okay, this is what I got. Whoops. Okay. This is what I got. Didn't get very far, but I was just practicing my proportions. Okay. And share my screen again. Sorry, I'm just collecting myself. Okay. Oh, come on. So now we're going to try some of these techniques with an orchard oriole drawing once it comes up eventually. There we go. So again, this is one of my mom's pictures. Not relevant, but this is an adult male, and I think he's pretty gorgeous. So again, I'm going to walk you through the steps to drawing this, but I want you to draw what you see rather than what you think you see. So I'm going to break this down into simple shapes, and then eventually we'll all have a gorgeous orchard oriole. Okay? So to start with, again, I like to start with the head because they're pretty important to the animal, and I'm going to draw a circle there. Okay? And in your little handouts, you have a box. If you'd like, you can make it the exact same size as the picture. You don't have to. But it makes it easier for doing measuring because you have the original right beside you. Okay? So I'm going to draw, I'll draw it out with you guys too so I know how long it takes. Okay, so draw a circle. Okay. So now we've got the circle. Now we're going to draw the body circle. So I'd like you to measure the head, and we're going to compare that to the length of the body. So I found the roundest part of the body so that I could make that into my body circle because it's nice when the body circle is actually a circle. So I found that the body circle overlapped a little bit with the head circle, and it was a little bit over 1.5 heads long. So measure the head. Okay, 1.5 and just a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to draw it too. Okay, so I've got my body circle. Hopefully you guys have got it as well. Next, we're going to measure the tail. And I'm actually not going to show you what the tail measurement is. I want you to measure it yourself first, and then I'll show you what I got. So, get your head measurement. And I started about above the toe, I believe, for when I did the measurement. If you do that, then we'll all be consistent. You don't have to be, but it's easier if we're all talking in the same measurements. When you're doing it on your own, it would not matter where you're doing it, but I just did it here. Okay, so went from there. So I got the length of the tail to be 2 3/4 heads long. So take that to your drawing, and we're going to mark out the length, and then draw the line. Okay. So we've got 2 circles and a line. We got this. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to block out the main lines using the shapes that you already have in place. So we're turning our shapes into more of, we're putting them together basically. We're piecing them together and making it more angled rather than just a bunch of circles. So I did the,
here we go.
so I did the angle from the back of the head circle to the top right corner of the body circle and made that line, okay? So we're gonna create that angle right there. Next, we're gonna create an angle from the bottom right-hand side of the body circle to the tail. So we're just building up our shape. So that was this line right here, okay? Now we're gonna go from the, basically gonna follow that circle, that body circle on the left side. Sorry, I'm horrible with my lefts and rights. So we're gonna go from this side and just follow it down and meet it up with the tail line. Okay, we're just building up our shape. All right. So now I'm going to start adding some more important features. So notice the beak is in the middle of the head, okay? And the beak length is half a head length, okay? So find halfway down the head and then draw a line out that's half the distance of the head. Okay? And then if you follow that beak line, just make an invisible line in your head, you'll notice that the eye sits right on top of it. Okay? So this is what you're going to have. So the line for the beak is in the middle of the head, and it's half a head in length. The eye sits right on top of the beak line. Okay? All right, everybody, I'm not losing anybody yet, right? We just got a bunch of circles and lines. Okay. So now we're going to add in some more angles. So we'll do the one from the top of the head to the top of the beak. Add in the two lines for the beak, so it's just triangle on top and a little line below, just a tiny triangle below. Okay, so just do those two little lines to build up the beak.
So Shelley wants to know, how do we texture the darker and lighter areas? Is that kind of the next step?
We're getting to it.
We're getting to it. Okay.
I'm just breaking it down really, really slowly, but we are getting to it, I promise. All right, so we've got the beak line, and then we're gonna create the forehead. So from the top of the beak to the top of the head. And then we're gonna create the chin line basically. So from the top of, so below the beak to the top of that little line that creates the bottom of the beak to the chin. And then we're just gonna box in the tail. So got this line right here, the base, another line there. So basically it looks like a big elongated M. Okay, and then there's a line at the bottom that connects it. Okay, then we're also going to draw the one leg. You'll notice it comes off perpendicular to the body, and it comes out half a head in length. Okay. Next, we're going to add in the arc to mark out where the perch is. Okay. All right. So this is basically what you should have so far. Okay. If you fell super far behind or you're super confused, there is cheater. I made a little tracer in your handout. So if you fell really far behind, you can just trace this and get caught up. Or if you feel like you're way out of proportion and you just want something that you know is right to measurement and you just want that to go off of for the rest of it, you can draw either off of this or you can trace it real quick and have that to go off of. So just want to make you a little cheater just to help you out in case you're falling behind. Okay. Share my screen again. All right, so okay, so here I just lighten the line so you can see the bird behind the lines a little bit better. This is what you should have, as I just showed you. Next, you're going to fill in the missing parts of your outline and make it more organic or less geometric, I guess. So you're going to start adding in the feathery bits, and here I show you what I did. So add in the feathery bits, curve the beak a little bit, add the glint to the bird's eye. I added some feathers to the top of the head, and it's just basically a squiggly line that followed my circle. Again, squiggly line that basically followed the side of the bird. I added in some tail feathers. Okay. I also added the shadow across the bird's chest. We're gonna add that in later. So if you don't want to do it right now, you can do it later. And I also curved the beak so it looked less like a triangle. So I'm gonna set my timer. I'm gonna give you 3 minutes to do this. Okay. And I will do it along with you. So when you're doing this, I want you to be referencing your picture all the time. So you're going to be looking at your picture the same amount, if not more, than you're looking at your drawing. That way you're drawing what you see rather than what you think, okay? So I'm adding squiggly line across the back. You'll notice, can't see, I should move this. Okay. You'll notice that the back of the bird's head goes out just a little bit. So add that in when you're drawing the feathers, because the actual Oriole's head isn't exactly a perfect circle. Okay. There's like a feathery bit that sticks off the side of his neck. You can add in the toes as well. Again, just the outline. Don't try to do it really detailed toes right now. That's just gonna throw you off. Sometimes, like especially if you're doing just a quick sketch, you can even just indicate where the toes would be and draw like a little whoop, like a little triangle, rather than actually drawing the toes and just indicate where they would be. That was the 3-minute timer. Give you a little bit longer because I know I'm not anywhere close to being done, so. Oh, I also indicated this line right here that broke up the orange and the black, if you want to indicate that line as well. That will help you later on some other steps if you do that. And it's easier to do that now than after we've erased our marker lines. Okay, so that was about 5 minutes. Are people okay? Can I move on, or do you want a bit more time?
Looks like people are doing good.
All right, perfect. Okay, so now I want you to erase any of the unneeded lines. So erase the circle lines, erase the tick marks, erase all that stuff. Okay. Give you a minute for that. And this is where it's going to start to look good, start to be looking good. Okay, you might need to add back in some of your feathery lines if you accidentally erased them while you were erasing the unneeded lines. Get rid of that. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go over some strategies you can use to bring your work to life. So once you got the proportion and general shape of your image down, there are certain principles that you can use to really help bring your image to life. So value is the relative lightness or darkness of a color, whereas contrast separates different features. So let me explain that a bit more. If you were using color, you could have a light green line beside a light red line, which would technically be the same value, but the different colors would create contrast. Or you could have a light red and a dark red, and even though they're different colors, the different values would create contrast. So the light and dark. Anyways, having contrasting features really helps to bring life to your work and make it pop. Having a gradient of change rather than steep contrast can help make things look 3D. So it's all what you want to do. There are also lots of different types of lines that you can use to help build up your image, including cross-hatching, stippling. So cross-hatching is when you take lines and you basically make grids. So you'll and then go across it. Or as I did on the owl cheek, I kind of curved my lines a little bit. That's cross-hatching. Stippling is just tons of dots. So you put the dots closer together where you want darker, and you put them less together when you want lighter. All right. Scribbling is just when you kind of just go all over the place and scribble out your pictures. Again, darker where you want darker, lighter where you want lighter. So we're going to try this out. I'm going to try to show you my notebook while I'm doing this. Okay, we're going to draw 3 circles. Okay, so start with just drawing 3 circles. I might use a marker so it's easier for you to see. There. Okay. Ooh, that marker's dying. Oh well. One circle. 2 circles. And there's my third. All right. Now that we've got this one is going to be my cross-hatching circle. It's just going to be upside down for you. Cross hatching, stippling, and scribbling. Okay. Now I'm going to pick out where my light source is coming from. So that's how I'll create my shadow. So I'm just going to draw a little sun in the corner to make it real obvious what we're doing. Okay. So in the cross hatching one, I'm now going to cross hatch and try to create that shadow. So I'm going to make some lines. Does not need to be exact by any means. Okay. And now in the back, I'm just going to put my lines close together and try to make that shadow. And farther and farther apart, the closer we get to the sun. Okay. And since it's a big circle or ball now that we've got some cross hatching to it, we're going to put a shadow behind it. Okay. And we're going to cross hatch that as well. Okay, so that's cross hatching. Next, we're going to do stippling. So it sometimes can help to start by just doing dots evenly across the whole thing. Stippling is slow, as you can probably already guess. And then I'm just going to put dots in the middle of that and just and then just add more and more dots the farther away from the sun that I get. So I'm just gonna make it all even. Then have lots of dots at the base. So I want you to be doing this along with me. And just getting more and more spread. Ouch. I think I need to make it a little bit darker at the back still. Anyways, you get the point of stippling. It takes a long time, but it does look really cool. Okay, and again, we'll do a little shadow in the back and fill it in with our dots. Okay, next we'll do the scribbling one. This, in my opinion, is the easiest. So let's make it really dark at the back. It's gonna be tricky to shade with the permanent marker. But yeah, your lines just kind of go every which way. Okay, and we'll do a little shadow again. All right, so those are 3 different line techniques that you can use to build up some shape and make things look 3D. Okay? So now we're going to do an exercise with some tracks. And I have some tracks on the screen. Okay? So I think that these are just random dog. I just found a random one on Creative Commons. So I want you to try to draw these tracks. So you're going to figure out the length, the width of the tracks, like pick a track, figure out the width of it, and then draw all the other tracks proportion to that, and the distance between the tracks proportion to that pattern as well. So if I were to choose this one, it's about 1, 2, 3 paw widths to the second one over here. Okay? So figure out those proportions, and then to draw those tracks, I want you to pick either cross-hatching, stippling, or scribbling to draw them. Okay? So if you don't feel like measuring out the proportions, just draw a couple tracks and just practice out the techniques, because that is the main point of this. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna bother measuring out. I'm just gonna draw my track. Okay, so there's my track. And once you've got that, I want you to choose stippling, cross-hatching, or scribbling and draw it out. Shouldn't have used marker. I can't erase all my mess ups. All right, did everybody get a chance to practice that a little bit? I'm not very proud of mine. I don't feel like showing you guys. I feel like I did a bad job on that. I hate using like a marker for the original one. Okay. There we go. All right, so back to our Oriole now that we have done a bit of practice. So next we're going to establish our light source and start to make our Oriole look more 3D. So we're going to pick the areas with light and dark values in order to create contrast and start to make the Oriole look more lifelike. So I'm going to point out the areas of, point out the dark areas and point out the light areas. I just want you to trace it out, okay? So here is the first dark area that I notice. Okay, so I want you to try to draw out that shape. Okay. All right, so that's the first dark area that I noticed. The second dark area that I noticed was on the head. So there's this wonky shape that goes around the eye to the forehead and back. Next is back to the eye. Okay? The next dark shape that I noticed is on the back of the head. So again, it's a wonky shape along the back right here. Okay? Then the bottom of the arc that the bird's perched on is quite dark as well. So outline that shape along here. Okay? And the base, like the tail, is quite dark too. So just, you can just note that whole area is pretty dark, because when we go to shade it in, you'll want to leave those parts light. Okay? Next, we want to point out the light area so that we don't darken those spots. So the beak is very light. Under the chin is quite light. The glint in the eye is very light. So you can outline those areas. Okay? Right here is a light area that you could outline. Okay? And along the top of the orange area, or the base of the bird's neck, is quite light. So you could outline that as well. All right, let's give you guys a couple seconds to catch up while I sort myself out. Okay. And the toes are light. Okay. So from here, it's up to you to add in details. So now this is especially important with species with difficult markings. So some species, such as these wrens, are only distinguishable by tiny details. So it's really important that you include them, especially if you don't know what the species is or what might be characteristic features. So any detail that looks very prominent could be what the species is distinguished by, like this bright white stripe across the top of the Carolina wren's eye. That is very characteristic. So you'd want to make sure you included that. And especially be careful of that if you don't know what the species is or what might be characteristic features. Okay? So in our OR tutorial, some of the details that you might want to take note of are the very faint eye ring, the glint in the bird's eye, which we already kind of pointed out, and then you'll want to take note of the light lines around the base of the feathers. And without seeing your Orioles, it's really hard for me to give tips on how to do this, but, oh, you're not gonna be able to see this with my pencil. How I would do this is I would start by taking my pencil and I would lightly shade in the dark areas, okay? So I'd like you to do that with me right now. And I fell behind, so I actually drew another one just in case I fell behind, and that did happen, so phew. Any sort of pencil would work. If I was doing like a really good drawing, what I would do is I would take a very soft lead pencil, because these are very good for shading, for doing the dark areas. So this is a 6B, which is very soft lead, and it just shades very nicely. But any pencil will work. Okay, and I realize I'm running low on time. So we'll just do some quick shading in. And I'm just going to leave that for you to do on your own time, but you got the idea. So we're going to shade in the dark areas. We're going to leave the lighter ones light until the very end, when we're going to come back in and just add a little bit of texture to it. But you want to leave those light areas to the end because you can always darken a spot really easily, but it's really hard to make a white spot white again. So that's why I like to outline the light areas first and the dark areas. Then we can basically work towards lighter. All right. Or sorry, work towards darker. So you just make the picture darker and darker as you're working. All right. So another thing when you're drawing, say, a bird, knowing the underlying anatomy of the creature can also help you draw more accurately or at least quicker. For example, bird feathers grow in groups. So if you learn the groups, you can then indicate the groups rather than draw the individual feathers. For example, these are two blue-winged teal. This is a male. You can tell based off of that white stripe versus the female, which doesn't have the white stripe. Okay, these are the primaries, and these are the secondaries. So if I want to just draw it quick or draw it like cartoony or something, but still make it look pretty accurate, I draw this grouping right here, and I draw this grouping right here. So knowing those feather groups can really help you to break up your picture and make it look accurate without taking the time to draw every single individual feather. Or you can draw that big group first, make sure that you've got that base shape good, and then go back in and draw the feathers. Okay? Here, the spots on the downy woodpecker actually follow the feather groups. So you can see where the primaries and secondaries are. You can see where the median coverts would be and the greater coverts. Okay? Markings also follow patterns. So I'm just going to pull out my sketchbook again. Okay, picture this song sparrow, which we call Stubby because it has no tail. So picture the song sparrow as a sphere. Okay, from that sphere, we're going to break it up into a grid. Okay, did that really quick, so I didn't do a very good job. But if you break it up like this, you will notice that the spots on the song sparrow basically follow that grid-like pattern. Okay? So by knowing those sort of tricks, you can mark out those lines and then just draw the spots over top of it because you know they're going to be right in line or approximately right in line, so that can help. Okay, and we don't have time for that activity. Basically for sketching, no, we just don't have time. Okay. Any questions or comments or anything? If you'd like to share any of your pictures, if you could email them to development@longpointlandtrust or tag them at LPBLT on social media so we can see some of your drawings, that'd be awesome. Or if you want to check out any of my artwork, my Instagram account is Megan_Hiebert_art. So you can check out some of my stuff that I do. It's just really random stuff that I just kind of enjoy making random things. So yeah. Any questions?
That is great. Thank you so much, Megan. This was so much fun. I am not a very good drawer, but I made something that somewhat resembles a bird. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything? A lot of people are saying thank you and that it was really wonderful. Yeah, please send us your drawings. We really, really want to see them. Even if you might think they're bad, I'm sure they're really not. Trust me, mine is, I'm sure, way worse than anything you guys did. And yeah, it would be so great. Lots of people are saying they learned a lot and that you're a really amazing teacher. I would agree with that.
Oh, thanks,
yeah, I don't think we have any questions so far. It looks like a lot of people really got a lot out of it, which is really good. I know I did. I've never taken a drawing class before, so this was a really good way for me to learn out about it and to get some really cool and fun techniques. So, okay.
Just kind of reading. I don't see any questions either.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if you want to ask me any questions later, if you go onto my Instagram account, you can always message me through there too.
Perfect. Oh, Kristen wants to know what your favorite bird is.
Ooh. I don't know. I really like saw-whet owls. I think that they're pretty cute.
Yeah, I think they're
But I also,
probably the definition of cute.
yeah, I also really like bank swallows though because I spent a bunch of summers banding them and feel like I've spent a lot of time with those guys. I also been doing a lot of duck banding, so I don't know. I'll just go saw-whet.
That is awesome. That is great. Okay, well, I don't think we're having any other questions popping up.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you everyone so much for joining us tonight. I hope you learned a lot. I know I did. And Megan, thank you so much for such an incredible, detailed, and well thought out class. It was really just fantastic. It was really great. So everybody that joined us tonight, we within the next few days we'll be sending out a recording, a link to the recording of this. We'll send out another link to that handout. I know it's been in the you should have received it in your email. And I know it's been dropped in the chat box a couple times again tonight. And yeah, don't forget to send us your drawings, your images. We're really, really looking forward to it, to seeing them. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Megan. Thanks, everybody. Have a really wonderful evening.
Bye. Thanks
Bye.
for tuning in.